Hi, how you doing? I was kind of half expecting my dogs to bark. I'm at home today, and whenever I say hi, they assume somebody's at the door, and then they go row, 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 row at the door. So, a very, very interesting paper proposal, and I think it's right on track, and it sounds like a good one. And I think there's a long history of it too, of people saying, "Oh, no, we should just throw prisoners away, lock them up, and throw away the key." Or there's people we should um, help them out. We should. Well, I was trying to think, revitalize, inspire, renew, all sorts of things. And then there's everything in between. I think there's been a discussion for forever. So how do we get through that? And how do we get some good stuff going? Well, um, I, my goal is to walk you through some of the steps that I would do. And this is what we would do if we had an in-person or a live Zoom consultation. But think of this as something that might be a starting point, and you can keep me in the loop via email, and also work with your instructor on this as well. It's a big part of doing things like this is having conversations and seeing if you're on track. And your professor is really awesome and is very accessible for stuff like that. Okay, so what I tried to do was break out some words or key concepts or ideas that we're looking for, and this will help us as we go in. So, education is one. Um, what does education look like? There's a lot of different things you could say. It could be like in social work, they do education on like how do I control my anger, how do I deal with drug abuse, how do I deal with relationship issues, all sorts of things that kind of tend to go hand in hand with other problems or people who end up in the prison system. Sometimes they call that comorbidity, but we don't need to know that today. But education, is it counseling? Is it education? Is it self directed? That one's kind of open ended. So as we search, we might find that you talk a little bit about like a hands off education, to one where there's a little bit of intervention, but it's kind of self driven, all the way to like a formal classroom or counseling session. That's something you might talk about as well. The effectiveness of those different ranges. And that's there's fancy words for that too, but I think we're cool with just education, teaching, um, maybe curriculum. We might get into that, but let's see. Let's cross that bridge when we come to it. Um, this is something called in the social sciences. It's called outcomes. So, what would happen? What are our expected or hoped for outcomes? Um, and we also have so there's positive and negative ones. So the higher quality of life is definitely a positive one, and we don't have to do after being released, but maybe we'll just keep that on there as italicized. If people are happy, happiness is hard to quantify, but it certainly is easy to qualify, and that's something you were asking. That how do we find stories? I think that would be good. And then what is less crime or recurrence of crimes? That actually has a metric. It's called recidivism. Um, as a librarian, I love vocabulary, but there's a movie, a Coen Brothers movie, about this guy who's wayward ways, and then he's up. It's a comedy, but they say recidivism. Do you know what that word means? I think Nick. Now he's called Nick Cage, but at the time he was called Nicolas Cage. Um, be that as it may, how do we go into these sorts of things? I will show you three different things. One, how do we do some advanced searching in Google? Because for this assignment in particular, we're looking for debate and argument and pros and cons. And sometimes in the scholarship, to appear unbiased, they often don't make statements like that. They say, well, here's the evidence. You decide. And so we want like politicians and people on the street saying, I don't think they should do that, or I think they should, and then say why. How do we do that? And then the second thing, library catalog. And then the third thing, applied databases. So the first one, how do we do advanced searching in Google? Google Scholar's okay, but it gets stirred into the other stuff too. So, and that's not part of the advanced search. It kind of falls in there. Okay, Google. I searched for Google and it gave us 7 billion results. Am I reading? Yeah, 7,320,000,000 results. That's that's untenable. How do we do a more advanced search? Google, when you search for things like food, restaurants, or movies, oftentimes looks at your cookies on your browser, and so it can see what you've searched for before, and it can help cater your search results. Looks at your history, where you've been looking for before. It also looks at operating system. It looks at your physical location, where your service is, and it'll suggest things based on that. But it's imperfect. So what do we do? Well, let's grab some of our keywords. Education in the prison system. Let's do prison system. Is that the best way? It looks like it is, because look, they're talking about Norway, around the world, prison system. I was thinking, is prison or penitentiary, or looks like prison system seems to be a good one. Whatever that context you find is the good one, the anchor for everything that you're looking in, put a colon in there. And then you can put in words like debate. And so what that's going to do, so I could put in restaurant and Mexican, and it would look in the context of restaurants. In this one, in a more complex search, it's going to look not at prison system, but it's going to look for debate, and it's only going to look in the context of articles or web pages that have prison system high on their algorithm ranking. First thing that shows up is ads. These are targeted typically from action groups, think tanks, political movements. These actually, believe it or not, have a lot of good positions to look at. But we were looking at education in the prison system, weren't we? I think we can just throw a natural language search in there like that. What do we get? Dun, dun, dun. Why education in prison? So let's go back. Education in prison system. Let's see if we get a different one. The Ford Foundation. Even just changing one little word. Changed it. Education versus incarceration. Oh, here's that Ford Foundation one again. Here's that word recidivism. So we've contextualized our search by saying, I only want to look at education in the prison system. I think we could do education prison system. What would happen? Ooh, whoa. Look at that. Maybe taking away some of the ins and the thes. I don't know. With Google, I'm always experimenting with keywords. I don't know, because sometimes they have some keywords that are lower ranked, like in the, what, and, but other words, education prison system, get higher ranked. So be that as it may, we found something right here that found a $1 million investment in education incarceration will prevent about 350 crimes. Holy cow, that's good. So what you would do, what I'll try and do, is look at here, prison-based education. That's a keyword we should save. Maybe if there's like a formal name for it, that's what we'd like. Prison education. They hyphenate it. I don't know how they're going to talk about it. But their recidivism is a big one, isn't it? Oh, reducing crime. Happier people, reducing. So instead of looking at the prisoner, we look at the environment that they're sent out into, and it helps reduce crime in that environment. So another thing you can do in this context, you can do pro-con. There's private prisons, pro-con. Oh, college studies. I didn't think about that. There's also arguments. So all these different things you can go at. For the argument paper, you're dissecting arguments using scholarly literature. So let's take a look at that next. This is where you might be grabbing articles, or you might be grabbing ideas. But the scholarly stuff typically doesn't show up on the open web because it costs money to license and things like that. So let's go to the catalog next. So you can search, just throwing in a bunch of keywords like that. But I'm going to go to Advanced Catalog and show you a trick for breaking down your search into concepts. And you can do this on any of the databases too. So for this search, we're going to put a concept up here. What's our first concept? Education. Let's use all of these. Education in the prison system. Our library catalog doesn't understand when it's a phrase though, so you have to put in quotes. So I'm going to do that. Or prison-based education. Again, you got to put in quotes. Or prison education. Where's my... Or... So this first line, this first concept, it's going to look for this phrase or this phrase or this phrase. And it's going to look for it not in a smart search, but it's going to look for that exact string of characters, letters, in the title or the abstract or some of the descriptors of the article. And before we do anything else, before we go into outcomes and things like that, let's see what there is. Fingers crossed that there's a million. Oh, 6,000. Not bad. Excuse me, if you think about the library catalog as kind of like 7-Eleven, it's a convenience store. The library catalog doesn't have everything, but it's got a little bit of kind of like this and that. So what you can do here is you can figure out, are they approaching this from psychology or education or political science, or are they looking at this from sociology? We should be able to get kind of an impression where everyone's coming from, because our colleges and departments are split up by discipline like that. Oh, by the way, if I all of a sudden die right now, this peer-reviewed journals, if you clicked on that and then clicked OK, that would get you at least 1,860 articles that are peer-reviewed. So you can fulfill that part of the assignment. But what I wanted to show you, prison reform has been going on for a long time. So what I would say is go into everything that you think looks interesting here and there, but I would primarily try and narrow down to our current era. So 1800. I can only imagine what prison reform looked like in 1800. Capital punishment for everybody. So let's go up to 2019. I don't think they were educating people back then. I think they were using, well, slavery was still legal. Probably a bad idea to go back that far. So what we have here is all of the great stuff. So there's the names of projects. There's, oh cool, there's special. So this is what I meant with curriculum. They're doing Greek and Roman texts, so classic education. That's cool. Oh, there's other places. So prison education in Norway. It's always Norway, Norway, Norway. In the prison system, Norway seems to be like the leaders in treating people like humans. What do we do to get around some of these things, though? Let's go to peer-reviewed journals, because that's a requirement for the assignment. Because some of these were books and book chapters, which are also good. Oh, here's something from the Netherlands. And famously, the Netherlands have rather empty prisons. So what we can do is go to subjects. So if you clicked on something here, prison education in Norway, for example, if you click on this, it's going to be the title, the abstract, the authors, and all that stuff. And down here, the authors of peer-reviewed articles will always write their own keywords. And this is what they say is the most important things about the article. So when we're typing it in, looking just for keywords or subjects, then it will help us find these things. Two things you can do with this is you could go out and you could click on one of these keywords and it would do another catalog search for inclusive education, rehabilitation, like this whole subject line. Or you could go and look at all the subjects of the 295 articles that we have here. And you can look in the subjects in order of popularity. So prisons, yeah. Social sciences, okay, we know it's sociology, psychology. Education, yeah. Oh, correctional education. We have a new keyword. Correct? Did I misspell correctional? So we have another keyword. Penology must be the study of the penal system or the prison. If you think of penal and penitentiary, they have the same prefix, which must mean go to prison. Recidivism, correctional institutions. I think that's a dated one. Oh, I didn't think of teaching and learning. No, okay, you get the idea. To get these articles, by the way, you just click on full text available. Something to be aware of is that some of them are going to use quantitative methodology, where they're just going to give the numbers. Some are going to use qualitative methodology, where they're interpreting or getting stories and interviews. So they'll be mixed together, but you could search for qualitative, or you could search for stories in your search as well. But I think they will come through in the social sciences. How do you get to the article? Oh, first, there's a citation generator in every database, including this one. So you can get your MLA citation. It's sometimes incorrect, but it's close. Second thing, do I want the full text of the article? Look for a link to the online resource, or find it, or get it, or something like that. This will go to another database, and it'll say, oh, well, try this database. And you just click like mad until you get the article. If you can't get the article, send me an email, and I'll track it down for you. The Prison Journal. Look at that. Much is made of the potential of prison education to transform life chances. Da-na-na. Cool. By the way, if you're interested, we have a librarian who's working with prisons right now, doing a literacy project. I'm happy to forward that information to you if you're interested. Okay, that's the library catalog. What about specific databases? Have you used the databases before? Let me give you a really brief tour, assuming that you're kind of familiar with them. There's this databases link right here. And when we did that search in the catalog, it searched through some of the databases. We can't license all of them. So it's just kind of some of them. But you can go into by subject or by name. So if you know like Academic Search Ultimate, or if you know EBSCO, those are the biggies. But you can go in by subject. And let's go into one where they would talk about happiness. That would be sociology. Whatever this major field of study is, when you go into whichever one that you are interested in, so there'd be like medicine, criminology, sociology, psychology, history. There's all these different ones you might try out depending on what you see. But if we do sociology, it's a study of societies, and happiness falls under that, along with psychology. The librarian will have put their favorite one at the top in yellow. So you don't need to know necessarily which database to go to. You can just go to that major topic. So let's look at sociology. I'm the librarian for sociology, so this is my favorite database of all time. So let's go to advanced search again. I want to find happiness. One of the first professors, Dr. Diener, D-I-N-E-R, one of the first professors of happiness studies, is from the University of Utah. The late great Dr. Diener. So let's do that whole mess of stuff. Prison education, or correction. But happiness studies is a new thing. It's something kind of like around turn of our current century. Psychology is relatively new too. It's kind of, think about World War I, and it's kind of like the big boom for psychology in practical application. Okay, prison education or correctional education, and taking a big gamble here. No, I'm not, but let's click on peer reviewed too. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. I'm so, yeah! There's 3! Oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is what's called validation. Your topic is valid when you find evidence that, it's like what you were looking at. This is good. Let's see. So Tsarist and Bolshevik repressive machinery, that's not related. Warehousing and rehabilitation, public schooling in the juvenile justice system. Yeah. What do they talk about? Happiness. maybe we don't have validation. There's other words for happiness though. Oh, come on. Okay, so you might be the first person that studies the happiness of somebody educated in the prison system. But it's all relative, isn't it? It might be somebody who's just like, yeah, I can bear life now. So don't be put off by that. There's lots of synonyms for happiness. I accidentally lost my place. Let me go back to sociology abstracts. I was so excited. I don't know if you can tell. I was like, oh, I can be happy. I just need to be incarcerated and educated. Seems like there's a flaw with my plan. Education in the prison system or correction. Education or prison education. Ooh. Prisoner education. You could keep on going. Any one of these. I'm going to copy and paste this or copy it. So let's look. What are some of the good outcomes? Quality of life. So now we're looking specifically for evidence of outcomes. Quality of life. Happiness was a dud. Reducing crime or recidivism. That's like the big metric. Because like everybody and their uncle records data about crimes happening. It's insurance companies, lawmakers, the police, the census, property owners, real estate people. Everyone looks at that. What's another one? Well-being or wellness. Okay. Let's see if there's what other evidence do we have that education in the prison system might be working, apart from recidivism? Well, I think we found evidence of that already. Hey, this is a little better. Oh, this determination of who's going to participate, or maybe who's eligible. Then maybe there's debt. So after you get out, oh, look at that. Quality of life shows up right there. There's limits, and that was published relatively recently. This looks pretty good. Oh, evaluations is where they have criteria for success. Is it measurable? Is it statistically significant that it's making a difference? There's particular population in a particular area. And that's recidivism. Recidivism. Let's do that subject thing where we go over to the subject. What are they talking about? Recidivism. Looking for, the rehabilitation. So when you say rehabilitation of criminals, they have a criteria for that. And a criteria for success may have those things. There's special populations, learning, studies, gender, age groups. Oh, employment is another factor. That would be a good one. Are you employable? Crime prevention, behavior, yeah, maybe people behave better. Social justice, maybe it reduces incidences of racism in the prison system. Building of community is quantifiable, all qualitative as well, like how do you feel, do you belong? Families, yeah, this might be a good way to go. Okay. So that's a whole mess of things. You can go back and just in that one frame of YouTube and find it. You can also see that it was a lot more written about in this current century than there was in the past century. Part of that is because we digitized stuff, and the internet started in the 1990s, so don't necessarily use that one. So I use the date range to come up to our current time, and it looks like right now more has been published in 2021 than any previous year in the last 10, 12 years. Neat. How do you get these? There's that view it button again. Ooh, anthropology. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at this period, there's a lot of stuff going on. I would recommend try and find 3 different articles, well, maybe 4 or 5 different articles, each one saying something that makes sense to you, that's easily accessible. They don't use a lot of jargon that gets you lost in like social sciences or something like that. If you ever run into something where it says no full text available, you can request it from Interlibrary Loan for free. But if you're in a pinch, email me and I'll track it down for you. But try and find just a few articles. How do you get into the articles and figure out whether it's something for you to consider? I will show you. First of all, the title. Does the title catch you? Is it talking about what you're interested in? That's a big one, because the authors write those specifically. And then the next is the abstract. This abstract is teeny tiny. Oh, correctional education has been the cornerstone of prison programming since the rehab era began at the turn of the 19th century. That's a point you could put at the history. It's deceptively easy. You just grab a point from the abstract and Bob's your uncle, as they say. Let's see. Social opportunity. Oh, I saw the life skills one. Oh, I lost it. Life skills training. That's like, driving a forklift, how to go grocery shopping. What it'll tell you is they'll have a problem, then they'll go into what the study did, and then typically they'll go down after the methodology and they'll say that they got null results. But they have a however. However, the results did reveal that other variables were more significant factors. Let's see what else they have. So you can see what those significant factors are. So just grab these little bits. If there's no little bit in there, then you can toss that article to the side, and that's how you get through so many articles like this. Okay, here's the databases that I recommend. And you can search like this or use some of the keywords that we put together here, or mix and match as you like. Favorite databases for this. There's one under the letter P called PAIS. PAIS is public policy. So around the world, if people are doing prison education, like Norway, or in the United States, they will report on it here to governing bodies that fund them. So there's a lot of federal reports, state reports, country reports, city reports, county reports, and there's a lot of people writing about those and analyzing them to see what worked. PAIS, really great. Another one is under psychology. So we found that one under sociology. That one's good. But under psychology, there's a great database, also with happiness studies, wellness, psychology, PsycInfo from the APA. This one's like the most popular one among social science people. And if you want to do some historic stuff, if you want to go back, since they've tried doing that education since the 19th century, there is a historic scholarly article database, if you want to go that far, called JSTOR. This goes back into the 1800s if you want to look at stuff like that. Let me know how it goes. I'm here to help. If you get stuck on anything, get frustrated, keep me in the loop with emails, and also work with your instructor and tell your instructor if you're struggling with anything, or if you want your instructor to look at something that you've written, because that's what your instructor is there for, to help reduce those barriers so you can get through to this completed work, okay? Have a good one.